I wanted to talk to you today about oral minoxidil for hair loss because I feel like so many women are dealing with this and not many people talk about their experience. You hear some men talk about it, but not a lot of women. I had a lot of questions. I know a few people who I've talked about with have a ton of questions for me. So I wanted to do a video kind of explaining my experience. In my 40s, I lost both of my parents. I had COVID 3 or 4 times. I was thrown into menopause very fast. And so compiling that, each time I had one of those events, I lost hair and they just hit one after another. I've had women say, well, I lost a lot of hair with COVID and then I just tried biotin and it came back within 6 months or a year or whatever. And something to consider is that if you have hair loss due to just like an event with COVID or pregnancy or a really stressful event, if you do have a loss and it's not a hormonal or genetic thing, then your hair is going to come back in 6 months to a year, generally, even if you do nothing at all. And so everyone has asked me, well, have you tried biotin? I have tried biotin and it has done nothing for me. And so it's a scary thing and it's an emotional thing. I started going down the rabbit hole on the internet and on YouTube videos, and I didn't even realize that they had oral minoxidil. I knew that they had the liquid or the foam that you could put in your hair, and it was kind of messy, and whether it worked or was strong enough was kind of not sure. I only shampoo my hair every 3 days, and so I didn't want to be wetting it down and losing my hairstyle every day, and I didn't want my hair looking greasy. I didn't want all the things. I wanted something easy, and a pill definitely sounded easy. So I did kind of a deep dive into it, and I know there are a lot of things that I was a little worried about, and probably a lot of you, if you're watching this video, are worried about. And so I wanted to kind of set your mind at ease from a woman who is 51, going to be 52 in a week, and to kind of tell you my experience. Because not only did I have all of those events, which kind of each on their own caused hair loss, but then they were compounded because it was one thing after another, but I also have a hormonal and possibly a genetic issue with that too. Otherwise, it would have come back in 6 months to a year, but it just keeps getting worse with each thing. And then the 40s and the 50s were thinning my hair anyway. And so one thing I want to say is that so many people have told me, and I have heard it before, that as far as women having thinning hair or even men having thinning hair, that it is all determined by your mother's side. I talked to a few different dermatologists and to my doctor, and they said that the potential for hair loss or alopecia or thinning is not limited to just your mom's side. This is regardless of whether you're a male or a female. That if you have balding or thinning men in your family on either side, that it can still be inherited by you, even though it's only in the guys. And it doesn't matter. If you have that gene in your family, whether it's male or female, then you could potentially have an issue with it as well at some point in your life, particularly during or after menopause. So after much research, I went ahead and talked to my dermatologist, talked to my doctor, had a physical, had them look at my scalp, and decided to go ahead and try the oral minoxidil. My dosage that my dermatologist gave me and that my doctor okayed is 2.5 milligram tablet, but I cut it in half. And so I only take half of that every day. So it's 1.25 milligrams. I just got this little thing at Dollar Tree, just a little pill cutter. And every day I cut it in half and I have half the pill. Easy peasy, only once a day. It's the first thing I do in the morning. There are a number of side effects that can be associated with it that can be kind of scary. I don't have any pill or medical allergies at all. And so I'm lucky that way because I know a lot of women as they get older can have those allergies pop up. So I can't speak to that. I do have some heart issues and I was kind of concerned about that. Minoxidil is for hair loss is kind of off label because what it was originally prescribed for is as a blood pressure medicine to help bring down your blood pressure. And so I was a little bit nervous about, is this going to affect anything with my heart? So I started it in January of 2024, this year, 5 months ago right now. And I had my cardiac checkup at the beginning of May and my test turned out well. I don't have high blood pressure. Typically, I usually have low blood pressure, so I don't even have that issue. I was nervous if it would affect my heart negatively or be hard on it or mess up any numbers, or since I have low blood pressure already, if it would make it go too low. But my numbers were good. Everything was looking good. And so that was all good news. That was probably my biggest fear. Another thing that people worry about is you hear that it can cause excessive hair, like for women, like anywhere on their face, like even your forehead and temples or cheeks, or give you a beard or a mustache, or on your back or chest, it can cause excessive hair. Now, I have never been a person with thick hair. I don't have like any hair on my arms whatsoever. I never have. It takes quite a while for hair like on my legs or my underarms to grow. It just grows slow. It's fine and thin, and even more so as I get older. So I'm not an extremely hairy person. I've never had like a 5 o'clock shadow or a mustache or any of that. The reason my dermatologist wanted me to take the 1.25 milligrams a day is because she said usually when she has read about or heard about women having problems with the excessive hair growth, it is when they are on higher dosages, very much so with 5 milligrams, which I've heard is very effective for growing your hair, but it can put it into overdrive everywhere else. She said that she has even seen that with 2.5 milligrams, that it's a little iffy at that point. And so I wanted to start with the 1.25 with a low dosage. And I thought, if this doesn't work, I am willing to risk having to wax my face or chest or back or whatever it is to be able to have hair on my head. Another scary thing that happens in the beginning when you start taking oral minoxidil is for the first month or two, I would say you shed a lot of hair. And it's a scary thing when you already have thinning hair. It kind of kicks it into overdrive a little because your hair has stages of growth. And so during those phases, it just kicks the ones that are getting ready, it just kicks them into the shedding phase so that it can begin to grow new hair and start fresh. Now, you're not going to lose all of your hair, but I could see light when I got a shower and my hair just on my head and I brush it. I could see my scalp and light through my scalp, and it was pretty dramatic. Now, you can't see the thinning as much right now because I do use a little bit of contour sometimes. On the days I feel like it's looking a little more thin, I'll use my Seint cream contour along my hairline and along my part line, and I only shampoo my hair every 3 days, and so this is leftover and already kind of colored in. But it was pretty scary. It wasn't like a bald spot, but it was definitely thin, and at that point I felt like every day I had to have the cream contour. Now it's kind of, some days I do, a lot of days I don't. Then I felt like I definitely had to. It was pretty noticeable to me. I felt like it was starting to become noticeable to other people who didn't even know and weren't looking for that kind of thing. And so the shedding phase is scary, but hang in there because it gets better and it is worth it. And so some people, it just may not work on. Their bodies just, it may do nothing. But for most people, men and women, it is going to help. Now, I've heard that you probably won't get all of the hair that you lost back. So it won't be as thick as it was in your 30s or 20s or teens, but there's a good chance that you will recover a lot more than you think. So I wanted to show you, I have been noticing for the past few months, and this is how you can kind of tell it's working. And also they say that that is a really good sign too. If you go through that shedding phase, that first month or two, that's a great sign because it means your body is reacting and that it is working for you and doing exactly what it should. So that is really good news. But I am getting all of these baby hairs that I'm noticing along my hairline. And I was never a person who had baby hairs before. And so, and it's not just breakage, it was all growing at the same time, all at once, and all after I started taking the minoxidil. So this is one of the ways that I know that, yes, it is growing me some hair. I also noticed because, like I said, I had gotten to the point where almost every day I was having to fill in my hair with my Seint cream contour, and I don't have to do that all the time now, and I don't feel like it's nearly as noticeable to other people now, but I definitely see some thickening up, and I definitely see the evidence of the baby hairs, and so that's wonderful. As far as excessive hair growth, even though I'm not a particular hairy person, I feel like the peach fuzz on my face, which I never really had much anyway, and it's very light blonde, it's not very noticeable, it's still fine, but I feel like it has probably thickened up, not like a beard, not things that probably anyone else would notice unless like the sun was hitting my face in a certain way and I could just use one of those tinkle razors and do the dermaplaning and take it off. But honestly, I was willing to take that chance. Even if it came in like a werewolf, I was willing to go get my face lasered if I needed to take care of that excessive hair if it meant that I could grow hair on my head. Another thing that I have noticed is my brows. I have had a couple of stray hairs come in under my brows. That hasn't happened for me since probably late 20s, early 30s. It's been decades since I have had any brow hair come in, and my brows just continued to get thinner and thinner and finer in my 40s until I had to have those microbladed. But I have noticed a couple of straggler hairs, so that's another way that I know it's working. As far as any other side effects that I have noticed at all, I've noticed in photos and videos that my face looks a little fuller. I think I'm retaining some water, but honestly, to me, that is so worth it because I can control my diet. I have heard that the water retention after a while evens out and goes away, and I do think that's the case. I feel like it is going down, but so worth it to me to look like I may be 5 or 8 pounds heavier if it gives me more hair on my head. And I do have some options like wigs and hair toppers and different things that I can use, but it's also nice to be able to have enough on your head to feel like you don't have to do that for every day if you don't want, especially in the summer. We're going through a massive heat wave like most other places. And so it's just nice to be able to also have your bio hair and not feel like you have to wear alternative hair. It's great to have the option when you want it looking awesome, when you want it looking super full, when you want a particular look, when you want it looking perfect, but being able to regain some of that hair back is phenomenal, because I have heard so many wives' tales and things that people say work, and I've went down rabbit holes with so many to see what scientists say and studies say and what the truth is. And honestly, in my experience and based on what I've seen from so many other people on their experience or studies, I think a lot of those are probably not effective. I think a lot of people who think that something is effective is because they had COVID hair loss or something that was going to be temporary anyway, and they didn't realize that after that event was over and their body had time to recover from the shock, 6 months, a year, their hair was always going to come back anyway. And so this is something that I'll have to take for the rest of my life, because if I went off of it, then I would lose that extra hair that I gained, and it wouldn't hang on to the growth phase of my hair as long as it does while I'm on it. So my hair would go back to shedding really quickly, and so I would thin even more, and I don't want that. I'm not willing to do that. And this is super easy, and the side effects, so tiny for me, have been virtually nothing at all. A million times worth it. My experience has been nothing but wonderful, and I would recommend it to a friend. I'm not a doctor. I can't give you medical advice. Everyone is individual and people react to things differently, but all I can speak to is my experience, and my experience has been nothing but wonderful. So good luck. I wish you all the best in your journey to feel confident and beautiful every day.